Welcome to the Chirosation, where chiropractors share their stories and lessons learnt in practice. The intention of the Chirosation is to provide resources and a community that will help chiropractors realise their innate potential. So join the Chirosation today. In this episode, I have a conversation with Dr Wendy Russell about her experiences as a locum. During this episode, we cover how Wendy discovered chiropractic, her experiences studying in Australia and New Zealand, what the mood of chiropractic is like in the United Kingdom, and of course, what it's like to locum in Australia and New Zealand. It was a real pleasure reconnecting with Wendy, and I'm very excited to see how she will continue to grow locuming as an option for graduates. So without further ado, welcome to the Chirosation, and this is where the conversation starts. Welcome to episode 11 of the Chirosation. I'm very excited. With me I have Dr Wendy Russell here to talk about her experiences as a locum and an all-round intrepid journey person through life. So very excited to get started. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Just to warm you up and get everyone cozy and a little bit more knowledge about who you are, is what got you into chiropractic in the first place?
Okay, so my chiropractic journey started years ago. I was a runner and had regular chiropractic care, so I was always around chiropractic, sort of around my early to late 20s. And I didn't think about chiropractic as a career for a long time, thinking that I was, going down the line of dealing with as a manual therapist for sports, etc. Anyway, I had a motorbike accident, and basically I kind of had to rethink about what I was doing with my life, and particularly my journey, where I was going. Through that injury, basically my chiropractor at the time kind of really helped me rehab myself back to being able to walk. Wow. Being able to, do the things that I didn't think I could do. I was told I would never be able to do again, like play sports, run, all of those things. And essentially, he helped me to see that there is a different way of looking at how the body works. So that's kind of why I got into it in the first place, I liked what he had to say. I liked what he was providing me as a service, and just loved hearing how the body works, and it can work better, and this is how you do it. So that's how my chiropractic journey started.
Nice. You experienced the chiropractic miracle.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's awesome. Yeah. So how long ago was that?
That was, so I spent 4 years walking sticks. Couldn't walk properly. So
really,
in 2009 I had my first lot of surgery. Then I eventually had 3 surgeries. The final one was a spinal fusion. So L5S1 spinal fusion, which is great to see on X-ray. It's awesome.
I have seen your X-rays. It looks pretty cool. Bionic woman.
Well, kind of. But obviously there were. I was told that there was going to be limitations to what I could do. I could never run again. I would never play sports again. And I just went, nah, that's not for me. So I chose to do it differently. I kind of went behind the insurance company's back. I didn't say that, really. No, of course not. And basically just, work with my chiropractor to be able to get myself to a position where I could do all of those things. And that was essentially it. So that was in 2009. So what's that, 11 years ago? Yeah. No, not even that. 7 years ago. Yeah. Far out. Yeah. Only 7 years ago, and 5 of those I've been in chiropractic school.
Exactly.
Wow.
You caught the bug quick.
That is crazy, hey?
That's incredible. Yeah. Nice. I never would have expected that. So where did the accident happen? Was this in Australia? Or
this is in Australia, yeah.
This is
in Australia, yeah.
So you're obviously living there at that time?
Yes. Nice. So I moved to Australia. I had a midlife crisis almost at my 30s. And just kind of went backpacking around Europe, ended up in Australia, and got stuck essentially for 14 years. Well done. Obviously for a number of those years I was injured, but it was certainly a journey through, not only through personal experience but also a physical experience as well, which is something that I don't think I think perhaps I have a different perspective on how the body works now, and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and how then being able to provide that for clients, I guess. Absolutely. As they come into practice, yeah.
Exactly. And that'll give you a lot of surety as well, because you've actually experienced this yourself. I've been there. I've been on crutches. I've been through the spinal surgery.
Pretty much.
And I've been able to progress through it. So I'm 100% certain this helps and will work.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for chiropractic.
Yeah.
Really wouldn't be.
That's amazing. And you're still riding bikes?
I do still ride a bike, yes. It took me a few years to get back on it, but yeah, I still do ride a bike.
back on the saddle, so to speak.
Yeah.
Very cool. So Australia, you started to study over there. And when did you start to study chiropractic in Australia?
I did. So I graduated in June this year.
Yeah.
From the New Zealand Chiropractic College. But before that, I did 3 years, so I completed my bachelor degree over in Australia at Macquarie University. And transferred. There was a whole history of how the college was going to close down. They were trying to close down the chiropractic college, the component of the program. Essentially, we had a choice either to stay, and we were offered the opportunity to complete the master's degree, which would allow us to then practice, or we had an option to get out. RMIT were looking at taking people on. But very limited in their numbers. And, very kindly, Phil McMaster from the New Zealand Chiropractic College decided to offer us, whoever wanted to come, to complete our studies over here. There was a few of us who wanted to look into it. I think there was 8 in total who came over at Lyceum, had a kind of a really good chat with Phil. And unfortunately, only 2 of us took it on, which is really surprised me. But anyway, took it on. So I have an experience of both a university set chiropractic program and also a private college program. I wouldn't say out of the 2. Of course, the journeys are different, very, very different. Macquarie University is very much kind of in line of only adjusting where you're in pain, etc. And you can only adjust in an extremity or whatever in an area where there's pain. You can't adjust anywhere else. Now, I didn't see a different way of doing that. I didn't know that was different, only from my experience from my own chiropractor. What I discovered is it's like, this isn't what I know chiropractic to be. It's not what I expected. The actual academic side of it and the research side is absolutely, I can do a SLR with my eyes closed now. So I'm really happy that I had that experience, but I knew that it wasn't all of it. So going over to the New Zealand Chiropractic College, I found that there was just a different way of looking at what chiropractic is. It was totally different from what I'd experienced before in the university setting. And it was certainly something that resonated really more in line with where I come from and my experience of chiropractic. So therefore, for me, it was just given. That's exactly what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. I upped Australia and left and came over to New Zealand. That was kind of it.
Fantastic.
As soon as I met Phil and at Lyceum, it was just like a light bulb moment. I was like, yeah, this is what I want.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Oh, wonderful.
Just moved everything, heaven and earth, to get over here.
Yeah. Good on you.
Yeah.
And what an amazing journey.
It was.
That's awesome. Because I'm really curious to see, because I think that's a really, really unique perspective. Having been in the Australian system, at being at Macquarie, and then come over here and transition into what New Zealand is doing, what would you say, are the graduates graduating with more confidence?
From New Zealand?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. My experience of obviously my class in Macquarie have now graduated. They graduated 6 months before me, just because of how it was set up and the techniques that the Chiropractic College affords here. They're graduating with just basically two types of adjusting, Gonstead and Diversified. That's it. They don't. From what I can understand is they don't have the certainty of why they're doing what they're doing. The purpose is missing. That's what I understand it to be. Now, I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. It's just the way that I've observed. Particularly conversations that I've had with those I am in contact with, still in contact with. They kind of, gone into practice early in their career, and now they've kind of, what are we doing? Why are we, what am I supposed to be doing? So it's almost as if they have no purpose, no vision about where they're going or why they're doing what they're doing. Whereas I believe that in New Zealand graduates, they have this certainty that is so unfounded, so unreal, that you kind of have this almost, you're swept along with the belief of what it is, you know. And looking at the two, there's just such a disparity between the two of them, you know, from an Australian graduate to a New Zealand graduate, far supersedes. And I've experienced that not only in Australia but also in the UK, where New Zealand graduates are actually sought after.
I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. But I think you touched on a really, really important factor, and I think having now done this project and looking into what experience is like for a lot of early practitioners, a lot of them technically are very good. They can do a fantastic neuropatient examination. Technically, they can go through and adjust spines very, very well, but they don't understand why they're doing it.
Yeah.
How can I impact this person's life who's literally walking into your office saying, help me. I want to be different. I want to be more engaged with life. I want to be healthier, but I don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
Can you help me do that?
Yeah.
And a lot of chiropractors, well, early graduate chiropractors find that really difficult because they don't know why. Which means that if you don't know why, you don't know how you're going to do it, and then you don't know what to do. So you keep looking around for, say, different techniques, because that's obviously what's missing, right? If I was better at adjusting, better at this particular skill, I could help people more. But if you have no why, it doesn't matter how good you are with your hands.
Exactly.
You don't know why you're in the room.
If your purpose is missing, then you really have no basis for why you're doing what you're doing. You know, all you're doing is basically, if someone's in pain, you're adjusting them, and then you might as well pat them on the bum and let them go. You know, there's no. I've certainly seen in some places in Australia where that's exactly what they're doing. Is they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They believe in chiropractic wholeheartedly because that's what they believe. But the difference for me, and particularly when I was in the UK recently, where I was observing some UK graduates, and I've observed it again in Australia as well, but certainly they kind of have this idea of, I know that it's subluxated or fixated or whatever it is, the term that they use, but they don't see that there is a long-term effect of that. What they see is basically, I'm just adjusting that section, that segment, that function. That's all I'm doing. I don't see that there is a huge connection between between even fixed points or subluxations, as we would say. They don't see the connection at all. Whereas I think New Zealand graduates do, because that's what we're taught to do.
Yeah. Well, and then, like you said, that's completely our environment. We don't know any different.
No,
we
exactly.
assume everyone's the same as us.
They're not. They're definitely not the same. People, certainly there are factions within Australia who do have that.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I've definitely experienced that as well, but it seems like they've experienced it because they've gone out, they've graduated, they've felt like something's lacking, so they've gone and found it.
Yes.
And then they've found why chiropractic is working for them.
There's certainly a lot of people who have certainly sought out philosophy, especially in Australia, where, you know, they found that there is something missing. So rather than, you know, there are two factions. There's those who have reached out for the philosophical standpoint of what chiropractic is, and there's those who have sought to change their technique, to better their technique, or to add something different, and to continue adding like AK, SOT, NOT, all of those things. I don't think they have NSA or NET really so much in Australia, but I know there are some, but it's not well known. So they're kind of trying to add extra things because they don't actually believe that chiropractic works. That's what it appears to me. Whether that's fact or not is another story here and there, but certainly observing people's practices or certain practitioners' practices where they're just adding all this stuff that is, you know, supposedly supposed to help their journey of chiropractic and their patient's journey of chiropractic, but it's just stuff that they're just adding to that serves no purpose from what I can see.
Yeah. Well, and also will confuse the patient as well, because then what is chiropractic? Precisely,
because if you can't identify and you can't trust that what you know in chiropractic is going to do well for the patient, of course, your belief is not there. And this is the whole conversation about purpose. If you don't believe in what you're doing and you have no purpose around that, of course, you're going to look for other things. You're going to start doing soft tissue work. You're going to start to, AK. You're going to start to do other stuff that, perhaps, is outside of the realms of chiropractic. And I'm not saying that it's a good or a bad thing. It's just what I've observed.
It's just been your experience. I've travelled around and been in those two worlds, which I think is a very, very unique and interesting perspective. Because I started chiropractic with having no previous experience.
Yeah.
So I believe you had the luxury of, probably didn't think about it at the time, but at the time you went through that health crisis and chiropractic helped you through it, which gave you a really wonderful perspective to go, wow, chiropractic is this amazing health modality which can really help people be so much more than they are right now.
Yeah. What I didn't, going through that whole journey, that the whole experience is why doesn't everybody have this?
I know.
This is what was frustrating for me. Because if I'd have known, and I went through the whole insurance process, so it was a really convoluted journey, and I had to, go and see 200 odd doctors, and because that's the way that it was driven, and that's the way the medical model works, particularly around insurance. But if I'd have been, knowing chiropractic as I did, it was like, no, I just want to go and see my chiropractor. No, you can't do that, because they're the ones who caused it. And you go, oh, wait a minute, that's not it, which is why I had to do it underhand, right?
Okay.
So my experience of my chiropractor in helping me to rehab myself was not, we kind of had to do it outside of the medical model, because that wasn't allowed, and my frustrating point in that was, why doesn't everybody know about it? How is it not possible that people don't hear this, that they don't know it, that they don't know that there is a different way of living, a different way of rehabilitating, a different way of functioning differently? That was my frustrating point. And many times I thought about, setting up a blog and, all of these things that I could have done in the 4 years where I was sitting on my backside doing nothing.
Yeah.
I could have done that. And now, full of regret, but I wish I had have done it. But I certainly...
well, you're doing it now.
I encourage people to do it.
Putting the story out there.
Yeah.
I think that is the only way that we can get it out there, by literally having a conversation, by sharing these stories, by talking about it and talking with different people about it, and getting our stories out there. How has chiropractic helped you?
Yeah, I think that's the only way to certainly get the public to hear what is possible outside of here's a pill.
Yeah, exactly, and that is what we're up against. We're up against a insurance health, I'm using air quotes, you can't see, health, quote unquote, modality, which is not very conducive to health.
Yeah, but it's
about control. Yeah,
and it's also, yes, there are places where it's absolutely necessary to have that.
Of course.
But there are also...
Well, if I was in a massive motor vehicle accident and broken bones and bleeding...
Of course.
Take me to the hospital, please, not my chiropractor.
Absolutely, yes.
But as soon as you've patched me up and I'm not dying anymore, get my chiropractor in there, because I'm probably going to be subluxated.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, it's what I found was it's all about the mindset of where you want to be. I sat in pain clinics for years, being directed about what I had to do, who I had to see, all of those things. And what I noticed particularly was that my mindset was different from everyone else's. In the fact of, they couldn't believe that I actually didn't want to be there. And everyone else was complaining, I'm in pain, you're not doing anything about it. Well, no, actually, I'm responsible for my rehab. I'm responsible for what I do and how I manage myself. And so my mindset was very different than, I was basically told to slow down by my GP because I was doing too much.
Yeah.
But what I realised is that, after my third surgery, essentially, it was quite funny, within 6 months, my GP said, I don't know what you've done, but yep, you're all good. Off you go. And there were people who had the same, I was in hospital with similar people who had similar surgeries, and they were still there a year later.
Wow.
You know, it's just crazy.
That's insane.
It's insane.
Got to unleash innate people.
It's a
healing.
mindset. It's definitely a mindset.
Massive mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, I definitely, like the way that I perceive chiropractic, the way that I look at it is what you're doing is you're transitioning people from a place where they are now to where they want to be. And people have to want to actually engage that. So a lot of people in that pain clinic probably weren't ready for that health journey. No. They could have gone in to see a chiropractor and heard the message, and the chiropractor could have done everything right. Amazing speaker, amazing adjuster. But if that individual is not ready to become more healthy, it's just never going to work.
Exactly.
Because that's what chiropractic is. It transitions people into a new, healthier lifestyle.
I truly believe that. I truly believe that, yeah.
That's awesome. So, travelling on from that, you came over to New Zealand, you graduated, and you're on a very, very interesting journey now, which I'm very excited to hear about. So what are you up to?
So I'm currently putting myself out there as a locum. I've taken on a few jobs, which is really good. What I realised was that despite my age, you know, being an older student, let's say, what I realise is I have a different perspective of, say, for instance, someone who's a lot younger. You know, I was graduating with, or soon to be graduated chiropractors who, you know, are still in their 20s. What I realise is that my mindset is completely different from theirs. You know, I don't want to necessarily go into an associate position where I'm being told what to do, how to do things. You know, I'm kind of an individual and I don't want to be told what to do. So in some respects, yes, I do, but in other respects, I don't. So what I found was I looked for a couple of associate jobs, you know, had interviews, looked at different practices of where I wanted to be, and each one of them, although they had a great opportunity, I realised that it wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want to work in that environment. So the alternative was to set up my own practice. And I definitely wasn't ready for that. You know, I don't know how to do systems. I don't know how to run a business, you know. So my next opportunity was basically, okay, how do I learn that? How do I now put myself into a position where, one, I can learn the systems, learn how to manage myself, learn how to manage other people and CAs, for instance, and other staff. How do I learn the business side of a business and a practice to be able to make it lucrative, to be able to live, but also to provide a system where you can constantly getting patients in. Now, I didn't know how to do that. Despite what they teach you at college, you know, yes, you have to do a certain amount of numbers, etc., but you're pretty desperate when you're doing it. Now, when you come out into practice, what I realised is, and having observed a number of people in practice, both here in New Zealand, in Australia, and in the UK as well, if you smell of desperation, people don't want to come. They really do not want to come. So it was trying to manage how was I going to do that. So the way I wanted to do that was to observe, to learn how to do that, to practice in different practices where there's a variety of techniques. There's a different perspective on each practice that I've been to, and how I wanted to take the best out of all of those and then apply it to my own practice later down the line. So this is the reason I chose locuming, was basically I wanted to learn. I wanted to exceed in what it was that I could then bring to my own practice. And the only way I saw to do that was to look at working in a number of different practices, which is exactly what I'm doing, is locuming both here in New Zealand and in Australia. So my experience of locuming essentially is not a vast one. Obviously, I've just graduated in June. But certainly the locumings that I have done in New Zealand here have been really essential to my learning. You know, I was very lucky with the locums that I've been given so far, that I've taken on, and I learnt so much in how to run systems, how to create patient base, how to maintain a patient base. But also what I've learnt is that, you know, it doesn't have to be my way. That's probably the biggest one, the biggest lesson that I've learnt. That is, if you're going into a practice and taking care of someone else's practice, you better do it their way. You better do it their way. so it's, in order to learn that, you have to put yourself in it, and it's been a big learning curve. You know, it's the most frightening thing to put yourself in somebody else's practice and have to go, hang on, I'm now responsible for your patients. Wait, hang on a minute, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to do that is I think, an invaluable thing for just learning how, you know, how other people do it. You know, because you kind of get set in your ways about how you do things, and, you know, you think it should be a certain way. That's not the reality of it. It's, you're taking on someone else's business. You're taking care of their business. You've got to both be professional, maintain their practice, but also practice the way that they practice. You know, and that may not be anything that you think is possible or anything that you really want to do. And certainly it wouldn't be something that I would practice. You know, I've taken on techniques that I wouldn't necessarily choose as my first option. But at the same time, you know, it's, well, why not? Why not?
And I think that's an amazing experience to actually try on someone else's hat for a while, to walk in their shoes. And then, because you get to do it for a limited period of time, you're not stuck there. And with that experience, you can pick the good stuff. Oh, I really liked that. That fitted with me, that fitted with my style, that fitted with my belief system, but I really didn't like those aspects of practice. And it gives you an opportunity, especially when you're in early practice, to kind of figure out those things that you like and you don't like, because you just haven't had that much experience yet.
Exactly.
So how do you cram a bunch of experience into a short period of time? Well, what a brilliant way to do it.
Exactly, yeah. And it's a great experience, because you can do exactly that. You can, oh, I really like that. I really like how they do that. I like the system they're using, or I like how they get their patient flow going. I like how they've got the 2 different rooms going. And I like how they, you know, perhaps, you know, doing 2 patients in 10 minutes, you know, 2 different rooms that you're working, and you think, well, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I just want to slow down a bit, and maybe I want to work 15 minutes. Or maybe I just want to do 10 minutes, or maybe I just want a full volume, keep going, you know, full on busy practice and adjusting 5 people in 10 minutes. Do I really want to do that? And this is the whole learning experience that I'm getting, is that you can pick those different pieces of how a practice runs, pick the best parts, and drop the bits that you don't necessarily either, not necessarily agree with, but you just know it won't work with you. Work for you.
And jumping back to that confidence thing a little bit, we were talking about a little bit before the episode about your experiences over in the UK, and I'd love you to share those, because I think that's really interesting from a New Zealand graduate or even an Australian graduate, the difference in perception from people over in the UK. Yeah. So what was your experience with that?
So I've recently visited the UK for a couple of weeks, and it was supposed to be just a family visit. But of course I couldn't do that. You know, I had to go and look at other practices to see what it was all about.
Of course.
You know, I haven't, although I've lived in the UK for a long time, I never experienced chiropractic over there, so I had no idea what to expect. So I basically put myself in touch with chiropractors to be able to observe, initially to observe. Then what I did was I looked for jobs, purposely looked for jobs to be able to get a real feel for what practices were all about. So I basically went around the whole of the both England, certain places in England, and then around London particularly, and in Scotland, and really kind of just wanted to get in touch with who they were as a chiropractor, what it was they were offering, and how they would do it differently from me, for instance. What I did find, it was really surprising to me, was that once I'd contacted them and let them know that I was a NZCC graduate, they just wanted me to come and talk to them. It was just, no, I want you to come and talk to me, I don't care. Just come, talk, and let's have a chat. You know, let's go for coffee or whatever. So that was really surprising to me, that as in the reputation that we have over there is obviously more than I anticipated it would be. So having sat in practices, you know, with, you know, I considered taking the boards. It's a long process, but, you know, it's a doable process. What I found was, when I was sitting talking to the chiropractors, they basically, I think because of where we come from in the whole issue of the subluxation philosophy of chiropractic, there are people over in the UK who also want that. Not all of them have the same kind of philosophy or sort of concept of what we do as an assessment. What I also got from conversations with them is not only come and work for me, but also you can teach me stuff. You know, I'm like, wow, hang on. You're a chiropractor who's been in business for years, like 10, 20 years, some of these people. And you want me to teach you something? Like, that's just weird. That was a real confidence booster.
Oh, absolutely.
But it was a weird position to be in. You know, there's me, I'm just graduated a few months ago, and you want me to teach you? What? Are you kidding? Yeah. It was a really strange position to be in. But, you know, the chiropractic as a whole in England can be quite pain-based in its philosophy, but there's also that faction where there are the chiropractors who are interested in the subluxation way of assessing and adjusting, and there are a number of people definitely who see that as an opportunity as an NZCC graduate coming in as an associate or coming in as part of their practice, that they can get that whole philosophy. They want wellness over there. They don't have it. They just don't have it. You know, one guy in particular I was talking to, a guy from Tunbridge Wells, and I went there to have a chat with him about the position that he was offering. And what I noticed from him was that even when I was just sitting there observing, I was talking to the CA for a little while, and she was sort of, you know, what's your philosophy, what's this all about? And we got onto the subject of nutrition and, you know, how the English are not particularly great on their food. And actually what I was doing is complaining about how much carbs that I was eating. And it was like, oh my God, I need some proper food, you know. And it was really interesting to hear her take on how the British health was. And it was so foreign to me that it was, well, what do you mean you don't know what raw food is? You don't know what, you know, it's things like kombucha. You don't know what kombucha is? What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
And it was everything I was saying was so foreign to her. She just didn't get. You were like, whoa, you're like right over there, you know, and you're not. Oh, you're different. You're really different.
Whereas for you probably feel like you're quite normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm pretty central down the way with chiropractic and health and philosophy. It's like
exactly. I wouldn't say like I'm really philosophically driven. Yeah. I wouldn't say, you know, if anything, I would say that I'm probably more biomechanical in my adjusting than anything else. So yes, while I have the philosophy, I don't have the base of philosophy, like for instance other people I graduated with, sure. And people like yourself who graduated just before me, you know, I would say you're probably stronger in your philosophy because you've had 5 years of it, whereas I haven't. But in comparison to what I know and what they know, hugely different.
It's just all relative,
hugely
isn't
different. Yeah. But what I know from the UK about their wellness is it's not a great. They don't have wellness. They're very much based on a medical model, and they don't see a different way out of it. And I think there are a faction of the chiropractors over there that are really trying to now enhance that. And I think they see that NZCC graduates coming over can provide that and can offer a different perspective on how to create a patient base. So absolutely sought after. Absolutely, you know, and the graduates going to the UK, absolutely, you'll get a job, no problem. Really, really. Which is
amazing.
It really is. Amazing. It really is.
To pop over there and be like, you weren't even looking for a job, but he's like, I'll hire you. Let's go.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I observed probably maybe about 10 practices, and I would say 10 out of 10 wanted to give me a job.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah. And like you were saying before, I'm going to name drop because I'm going to get them on the podcast later. But Nina and Ali,
yes,
and their experiences at setting up over there? If you could, because you chatted with them both, right?
I did, yeah. I went to observe both of them in practice, and it was a chance for me to see how they practice and how they've transitioned.
Yeah.
But also it was to pick their brains on how to pass the boards, essentially.
Yeah.
Because I heard it was a bit tough to be able to pass the boards, and there's certain sort of things that perhaps you don't even think about. And I kind of wanted to get an insider knowledge of that. So that's one of the reasons why I went to see them. And, I wanted to catch up as well. But certainly catching up with Nina, it was observing her in practice. Now, she's got herself in a great position. She's got a great bunch of people that she's working for, and she works for a great company. And, listening to her experience of Nina's in a really unique position because she's kind of locumed herself, but kind of put herself into different European, like she worked in Barcelona for a bit, she worked in the UK for a little bit, locuming, and then she went off and found a job in the UK that she was happy with. But her transition was a fairly simple one, she said. Passing the boards for her was fairly simple, and she walked into a job where, she's loving it. She's loving what she's doing. She's loving the position that she's in. And she's essentially doing what she loves, which is doing chiropractic her way, essentially. And Ali was in the same position. I had a great opportunity to have a chat with her, and she gave me a great knowledge on whiskey as well. But that's another story. But she... observing her in practice was she's got herself into a practice where she's got a great mentor. She enjoys what she does. It's very much a local business, although there's two practices that that are quite close to each other in different suburbs. She works out of one practice, and she's setting up a health talk. She's talking about nutrition. She's literally doing the chiropractic that she loves in Scotland. That's pretty much it, and she's loving it. She's just found herself in a position where she resonates with the practice. They love what she does. They love what she knows. Again, they probably share a lot of information. And what's not to love about that?
It's brilliant. So in your experience over the last 6 months doing different locums and travelling around the world, what's like a really good story? What's something wonderful that you've experienced that's kind of made you go, yes, I'm on the right journey?
Okay, so all right, so I went with a friend I'm going to tell you the story of the mum, right? Good, yeah. So I went with a very good friend of mine. Her mother I've known for a number of years, over 20 years, and so much so I call her my second mum. Anyway, so she has got herself into... I've talked to her a long time about what chiropractic can offer. She's had a number of injuries throughout her life. And so I suggested, and we had lots of conversations. Finally, she got herself booked in with a chiropractor. And so she was going to see this chiropractor. She just started under care. She'd had her initial exam. She'd had her ROF. She'd had 2 adjustments. Because I was there, she basically said, can you come with me and just check him out and see if what he's doing is the right thing? Because obviously she trusts me, right? Yeah. She hadn't heard the chiropractic story yet, so it was only like so she had a first appointment, then she had the ROF, and then on the 3rd visit, and then on the 4th visit. So then she went to a workshop. She couldn't make it to the first one. So this guy was doing workshops. Basically, it was pretty much a health talk. It was this is what chiropractic is. It was the chiropractic story. Okay, so it was an opportunity for her to learn exactly what it was all about, what chiropractic was about. So she hadn't got it up to that point, right? So I came into the visit. On her 5th visit, she hadn't had the workshop, so she hadn't had the story yet. And I was trying to, tell her my story about what it was all about and how I saw chiropractic. Anyway, so I turned up with her at this visit, and she's, you know, oh, is he all right? What do you think? What do you think? So I'm observing. I explained to him, look, now I'm an NCC graduate. I've just graduated, and I'm just here to observe. I'm just here with my friend's mum, and you know, if you're happy for me to observe, great. The first thing he said was, "Can you adjust me?" It's like, great, oh, excellent. Can you adjust me? I'm like, well, hang on a minute. So anyway, I observed, and I'm sitting there going, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I should adjust him or not, you know.
Yeah.
And anyway, so he finished with my friend's mum, and then in a room it was an open plan practice. In a room full of his patients, there was me, a new graduate, adjusting the chiropractor, right? I mean, that was just incredible. It was just, of course, I was really nervous.
Yeah.
Probably there wasn't the most crash hot adjustment I've ever done, but you know, it was enough to get him what he wanted. Probably wasn't exactly what I would do in the assessment process, but you know, the interesting thing about the UK and practitioners who are a little bit pain based, they kind of go, "Can you adjust here?"
Yeah.
And just that. And they go, no, that's not what I do. You can't say that to them. It's just, okay, sure. If that's what you want, sure. So I assessed them, did everything, tried to do a chair adjustment, and it wasn't happening. Of course, because I was really nervous.
Yeah.
So I just went, okay, I'm just going to go back to what I know the base is. Go down, lie down supine, adjustment. That was it. Perfect. It was almost like, it was like a pin could drop. You could hear the room was so quiet. Just as I was adjusting him, and it was almost like this cheer went up after it happened. But I guess what I got from that was just the confidence he had confidence in me, just knowing that I was a graduate from New Zealand. That's it. You know, if I was I don't know if it would have been the same if I was a graduate from Bournemouth or any other university. I don't know that I would have got the same kind of feedback, really. You know, what I did know from him is after that adjustment, he offered me a job on the spot. You know, that was pretty cool.
This was a pretty badass adjustment.
But it was, well,
this is how to get a job adjustment. Boom.
Pretty much. It was really weird. It was the weirdest experience I've ever. I haven't experienced anything like that, but it certainly was a confidence booster.
Amazing. And
and just knowing that you have that reputation, even before you put your hands on people, is pretty phenomenal. It's a pretty good place to be in.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I love that story. It's such a good story. So I've had a good story. Now I have to have a bad story to even things out. What's in the last 6 months, again, looking back on that time and your experiences, what's a moment where your heart's dropped? Where you've kind of gone, that sucks.
I don't think I've had one of those yet. I'm expecting it. I really don't think that I've had that.
Awesome.
I'm really trying to think of one, and I really can't.
Yeah. I think that's the best answer I've had so far. That's
really?
Great. Yeah, that's really wonderful.
I'm
really happy for you.
I just can't think of
I'm really happy for you.
I have no doubt that it's coming.
Sure.
I have no doubt.
Sure.
You know, but for the moment, it's. You know, I'm not saying it's all been smooth sailing. You know, it's been a huge journey in trying to figure out what it is I wanted, and going through different interviews with practitioners who, you know, really want you on board, and kind of, you know, realizing that, you know, you're not it for me. That was a kind of, okay, now what? Okay, if I don't have a job, what the hell am I going to do? You know, am I going to set up my own practice? Well, no, not really. I'm not ready for that. And the realization is that, you know, I still have lots to learn, and I still want to learn, and that's the key point, I guess. Is, you know, it's a never-ending learning journey that you need to have. You know, stand still, you become stale, right?
100% agree.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you're not standing still. What does the future hold? What do we get to look forward to, Dr. Wendy Russell creating?
What do we get to look forward to? I think for me it's, you know, really concentrating on creating a locum reputation for being, you know, I can do what you do, and you can be rest assured that your practice is in safe hands. You know, that's kind of what I want to create for myself. around my locum business. And that's not only here, but in Australia as well. So the next step for me is just building that reputation, building just an identity, I guess, around who I am, what I can represent, and what I can do for you as a practice owner.
Definitely. Yeah. And there's plenty of chiropractors out there who need a break, but just don't know anyone who's available, who that they can trust with their practice.
Yeah.
So I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, you can trust me.
Exactly. Such a trustworthy person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and like we were talking about before, that I think that is a really unique skill to have, to be able to put on someone else's hat and fit into their practice.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, for you, obviously amazing learning experience, but for them, what an amazing thing to be able to walk away from their practice, know that it's in safe hands, be able to relax and have a holiday and rejuvenate themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then come back.
Absolutely, and that's the whole focus. For me, it's not about. I've heard a number of locums now. I've spoken to a number of locums who are doing it, particularly in Australia, where they, they're in it for the money. That's what it seems to me, and that's not what I'm about. It's nice to make money, but for me, it just affords people the opportunity to be able to walk away, rejuvenate themselves, and be absolutely 100% sure that I've got your back. And not just myself. There's a couple of really good locums out there who are doing the same thing. But creating that identity as a locum is going to be a huge opportunity, I think. Just to allow practice owners to be able to just walk away, rejuvenate, and not even worry. How great would that be? I know that if finally when I get my own practice and when I do start to develop a practice and perhaps take on associates, etc., I want to know that the locum that I take on is going to have the same conversation with me about what it is that they can provide. And that's kind of where I just want to change how locuming is. It's in Australia particularly. It's like, what are you going to give me? How much are you going to pay me? I won't do this. I will do this. And no. It's not about that for me. It's about what can I do that is rest assured that is going to get everything ticking over smoothly and effectively. That your business is just taking care of itself, and then I just step in and do that, and just tick it over while you're away doing what it is you want to do. How
Which
great
is
would that
beautiful.
be?
Which is beautiful. I think it's so good. So good. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be super amazing.
It'll be good.
Yeah, really cool. So what are some resources that you are using at the moment, like YouTube clips, podcasts, books you're reading? What are things you're using at the moment to grow?
I'm reading a lot of... So at the moment I'm doing a lot of podcasts because it seems to be just that's what I have time for right now.
Yeah.
So my podcasts include a wide variety of people. I listen to the philanthropist, awesome stuff that some of the interviews he's come up with. I listen to a lot of Mark Postle's podcasts as well. I also listen to Simon Sinek, just around business. There's a great guy on Facebook at the moment who's doing, mini clips on how to run businesses, basically running businesses effectively and creating some stuff around staff. His name's Cohen Ray. He's pretty cool. So I've been listening to a lot of that. Books I've been reading, I've been revisiting a lot of stuff around how the brain changes itself, David Rock I've been reading, we did that in Chiro Mastery, if you remember.
Yeah.
So I've reread the whole of that book.
Nice.
Really enjoying that. But I'm also doing a lot of self-development stuff as well, in learning how to create business, marketing, how to market myself. I'm fortunate enough to have got myself into a kind of social ecology that is kind of supportive in creating what you want for yourself, and creating some aims around that. So I'm really enjoying that right now. Heidi Horvick's doing with her presenting research papers, and of course I had the great pleasure of working with Heidi in creating those animations that she's presenting. I had a great opportunity to learn from her of that. But it's basically presenting recent research papers out there in such a way that is palatable and where you don't have to read it for hours and you don't really understand what it means, but essentially just delivering the content in a way that you can understand it as a chiropractor, and how you can then bring that into your business and how they bring it into your practice. That's kind of where I'm sitting right now.
That's awesome. So it's just self-development. I really want to acknowledge you for a second for that, because that's a really important step that I think a lot of people miss post-graduation.
Yeah.
Because I think I graduated, I'm done now, right? No. Now you're safe. Now you actually have to get really good.
Yeah.
And I think actually looking at yourself and looking at how can I grow, but especially in areas like business and marketing and who are you as a chiropractor?
Yeah.
And figuring that out is a really, really, really big step.
Absolutely.
I think important to
do.
And
thinking that as a graduate that you know everything, well, I'm sorry to tell you, honey, but you don't, right? And that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is I really thought that I knew everything. Being older, I was like, you can't tell me anything. Actually, you know what? I know nothing. I've just come into this going, okay, yeah, I can go and do this, I can do this, and I go, actually, I don't know if I can. And so for me, it was basically reaching out, getting myself mentors. I still have a mentor that I greatly respect, and, having some feedback on how to grow in that respect as well, not only personally but in a business sense, as a chiropractor as well. You kind of had I've kind of had the opportunity to grow as a chiropractor, but also as a business person as well, as someone who creates aims for myself, who has the opportunity to, yes, I have these great goals and visions about what I want, but now I can actually put steps in place of how to do that. How do I get to that? And that was what was missing for me. And now having found something that gives me that, I'm working towards that. This is awesome.
It's so awesome. That is so awesome. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on the Chirosation today and sharing what an amazing journey you've had so far and what an exciting place you're going soon.
Great.
Very, very cool.
Fantastic to talk to you. Thank you.
Great fun. Thank you for all the support you've been showing this platform. If you have any ideas for future episodes or you'd like to be involved, send me a message through the website or your preferred social media. For the resources mentioned in this episode, check out the show notes or thechirosation.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and leave a comment on Facebook. Now go out there and start a Chirosation today.
For me to stay close to you,